All right. If all is going well, right. We are now, if all is going well, in the very first of the. We are now. Oh, pardon me. In the very. This isn't going to. Hold on a second. Let me fix a problem here. Okay. Hopefully now we don't have that echo that I created. It's not that I don't enjoy hearing myself talk, but I am kind of hoping there might be a few other people who come in to listen. I'd like to thank Timothy Green for being in the audience early, so I don't feel like I'm completely alone. I'm going to chat just a bit here at the beginning to let the crowd filter in, get to their seats before we have the real kickoff. Think of this as the pregame show. And tonight, planning on talking about some different ways of looking at the portal. It is a new thing still. They are constantly changing how they do it. And we are also learning how to react to it. Like to analyze things, but analyzing something new is kind of tricky. Thank you. We now have Robert Gurney. We've doubled our audience here in the first minute and a half or so. Wow, skyrocketing. And now, of course, for those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We're getting close to 300, which is a nice little milestone. Things don't really count until we reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. And in case you don't know, that is the point at which YouTube will consider letting us monetize some aspects of the channel, which means, being able to do super chats and donations during the live stream, or having links on the individual video pages. Now, I will say there is a link on the homepage to the channel that goes to PayPal. I don't know if YouTube really allows it, but I'll leave it there until they say otherwise. It's kind of tucked where you don't see it because nobody visits the homepage of the channel. If you do click it, it'll bring up Gen 4 Exotiques, which is fine because I am the 4 in Gen 4. That is our antiques and collectibles business. So anything along those lines is certainly very much appreciated. Now, with the portal, of course, the original and in many respects still the preferred way for some of judging an outgoing class is simply the raw number. How many people have entered the portal? It's basic arithmetic. You don't even have to do anything except add them up. And then we started getting into snap counts to try to determine who was important and who wasn't. Of course, we're still just relying on numbers because numbers are rather tidy. They create the appearance of answers. But the reality, of course, is that numbers by themselves have no great meaning. You still have to analyze, translate, look at why, and all the other factors. So tonight, I'm actually going to include what I call the trajectory, which is looking at the direction a player's performance is headed, and also the players behind him. What is their trajectory? And if you look at the raw numbers for the portal so far this window, we have 12 scholarship players and 2 walk-ons in the portal. which seems to be pretty much mid-range. There are some teams out there with just 2 or 3 players in the portal, and there are teams with well over 20 players in the portal. So, of course, some of those who don't have very many players in the portal currently are ones who are in, the championship race, or at least a New Year's Day bowl, and they want to hang around for that. So with some of those teams, we may very well see a massive increase in how many players they lose once the spring window opens. Or in some cases, I think this window closes January 2nd. So for teams with late December bowl games, we might see some players leave after that bowl. If you look at snaps, we aren't really losing a lot. Of course, we've got 2 starters, Lockhart and McLaren. Let me see. I don't think this is going to work. I tried to play with it. No, I'm not seeing anything. If you're seeing a list of the snaps that we've lost at this point, let me know. Rhonda Reed, thank you for joining us. A lot of the SEC, I'm not sure what is happening there. It's going to be, well, of course, SEC teams frequently stock a lot of extra players. So I can imagine second and third string guys getting fed up. But I know, of course, some teams are losing their biggest players, not so much to the portal as to the NIL. But yeah, if you're seeing a list of the snaps that the portal players played, let me know. I'm going to have to work on this. Clearly, there are a number of things that I have not cleared up, including the glare on the glasses. So bear with me. If Jenny can do it for 30-something years, you guys can do it for a bit anyway. But snaps only, again, tell you part. Hey, you see it. Wonderful. Let me get to that page. Because we had, Lockhart played about half the snaps on defense, which really, as a starter, isn't that much. But when you look at trajectory, the direction things were heading, starting in the second half of the season, Lockhart and McLaren were both losing snaps. Lockhart, not so many, but noticeable. And it was both Mulba and Russell who were adding snaps. So Lockhart's trajectory was down. The trajectory for both of the guys behind him was up. That's not good for Lockhart. He was not guaranteed a starting place if he stayed. I don't know. Well, actually, word is that it was an NIL issue, but some of these sites, and I'm sure agents, are giving players a really overblown impression of what money is available. If you are in desperate need of a nose guard, you'll pay more for Lockhart. West Virginia would have liked to have him, but they don't need him. We don't need him. We have 2 players behind him who are maybe not quite as good right now, but by next year could be as good or better. And I'm not sure who will be the third player at that position, but we have a lot of talent that's going to be ready. And you start looking at other snaps. I mean, you see Johnson, yeah, he played 127 snaps at running back. He had one big game that earned him the starting spot for the next game, and then nothing. Now, a lot of the time after that, he was coming in with the second team and getting stomped. So it wasn't entirely his fault, but he just wasn't showing much. And Gallagher, or not Gallagher, excuse me, Donaldson and White were both playing well. Of course, Donaldson having injury issues. But possibly the only worrisome loss out of the 12 scholarship players is Hurd. And we really don't know what his trajectory is going to be. Now, let me see here if I can bring up that page. You should be seeing my trajectory list at this point. If you look at Lockhart based on snaps as the season progressed and the people behind him, his trajectory was down. Their trajectory was up. McLaren, he was barely playing the last two games. And we didn't have Dixon the second half of the season. And McLaren was still losing snaps. A few of those were to Collins, almost a couple to Stokes, just I guess to get a look at him. And then we were using Floyd, and that turned out to be the most effective defense we had. I wonder, I said in an earlier video, I think Floyd's performance has the coaches looking for players who can do that from Spear. We have not gotten production from Spear this year. And since you can say the same about the Bandit, that's where a lot of the defensive problems were. We were on the edges. And essentially every player that has left, I'd say their trajectory was down or at best flat. Hurd was the only one that might have had an upward trajectory. We don't know how much he was really affected by injury this year. There's talk about it, but we don't have specifics. So in terms of critical losses to date, we haven't had any. If we get a decent number of players in the portal, we're going to make out like a bandit. I see this defense. And of course, most of the players in the portal are from the defense. We've hardly lost anybody on offense, and no one of significance. So between the freshmen coming in, some of whom will contribute next year, and who we get in the portal, the team is going to be better. We really, I think we're in a great position. I like it. I do not see a current negative in the portal at all. And we have not been able to say that in the past, even if we kind of liked the fact that certain players weren't going to be there anymore. They were contributors. But we now have enough contributors that we can lose guys and get better. Now, so far, we have not signed anybody in the portal. But lots of offers going out. A lot of these offers are to highly sought players, whether they are P4, which is now the common term instead of P5, or a lower, G5, Division II, whatever. West Virginia is going after guys that have a good enough performance that a lot of high quality teams want them. even teams that don't have as much need in the secondary as West Virginia does. There are probably going to be some commits in the next few days. One player has said he will announce on Friday. General feeling is we've got a good shot at him, and it's a cornerback, Aiden Garnes. So that would be good. He would be a very good get. We have one commit that we were down to the wire, but Devin Cromwell went to Texas Tech. If you haven't heard, he would have been nice to get, but I have not counted how many cornerback and safety offers they have made. It's a bunch. There are a lot of guys available. It would be nice if they get the guys to come in soon enough so that they can enter in January. That helps a ton. And depending on who they sign, the coaches may want to make adjustments to the defense. And if we get the guys in January, that gives them time to make adjustments. And we are looking at a number of 4-star high school players to try to add to the 2024 class. That will be, I think, a really good class. And kind of getting to a couple of the last things I was going to specifically talking about, hoping we will be getting some discussion and questions and thoughts on the discussion there, the comments. I appreciate what people have said, but no, as far as I know, Michael Hayes has not been listed unless I checked about half an hour ago and did not see anything new for the last 2 days for West Virginia players in the portal. A whole heck of a lot of chatter. There is an ex-Twitter account, whichever name you want to use, that's been making a lot of posts of late. In terms of most things, it just seems to be an ordinary fan. In terms of the portal, it seems to be somebody who has inside information. They seem to be dialing back a little bit because they were starting to cause some waves. It's kind of stirring the pot in unnecessary ways, which complicates NIL discussions and you don't want to mess with the team's culture. And right now, the culture is one of the strengths of the team. Finally, they've been after it for a long time. Now they've got it, which does lead me to next subject. This is the first year since Neil Brown came in that they are recruiting from a position of strength. In the past, you had changeover from, very big change in the coaching, and that creates curiosity, but players don't necessarily want to commit to a new coach. The team itself was not stable. It was not happy. I am pretty sure of that. I think there was a serious culture conflict between most of the Holgorsen players and most of the players that Brown was bringing in. So it took a while to settle that down. And we have an 8-4 record, going to a good bowl game, an All-American on offense and an All-American on defense. That gives you a lot to recruit with. And that's also, I think, why we have good shots at upgrading the high school class. the guys they are mostly looking at are higher quality than who we had, which is also probably why they asked or let a few of the commits know that it wasn't going to happen and let the commits announce that they had decommitted. I think we're back after Rick Darius Farmer. He has visited campus a couple of times already, recently on his own money. That is a good sign. He is a high-powered receiver and would make that room something we may have never seen at West. I mean, the current receiving room is very good, and with so much youth, next year it is going to be super good, even just with the current players and the two receivers we have signed or committed. So if we add another high-quality freshman plus a good transfer, or even if we don't add a transfer receiver, that room is just going to be spectacular next year. And kind of makes you want your own DeLorean time machine just to get there faster, but we'll have to enjoy the anticipation instead. And let's get to the bowl game first anyway. But Brown has recruited well. Now, I know the class ranking number has not been spectacular, but he has recruited for fit and need, and he has done well at that. Now, this year, we've reached a point where we aren't losing critical players. Yes, we may still lose a critical player after the bowl game or come spring. But overall, things are going well. Kind of curious what you guys who were in here think of the season and how things have been going. Also, portal issues, recruiting issues. I've said most of what I had to say. If we don't get some more commentary going, it'll be a relatively short live stream. Of course, some of the live streams that I've seen get kind of long because I'm the one who's in there asking the questions, and I have a tendency to make conversations last longer, not shorter. Was once known to tell stories for 7 hours straight. Let's get that settled. Okay. Looking actually at a couple of the high school targets, I'm not sure how much you guys follow that. And yeah, Robert Gurney, obviously I agree. It's been a very good year. Better than expected in some ways, not as good as expected in others. That is the way most things pan out. But if you do look at the record, it's definitely, hey, I said 7 was the floor, 9 the ceiling. I feel pretty good about that. I consider 9 to be the floor next year. And actually, I think the ceiling for regular season next year is 12 wins. We can beat everybody on the schedule. Of course, we don't know what the teams are going to look like by then, but we have the possibility to win 12 games next year. That's never likely, never, especially not for West Virginia, but it is definitely a reasonable possibility, not just far-fetched. This year it was a possibility, but it was a pretty far-fetched possibility. If you haven't been following the high school recruiting, there's a couple of guys we're after who could be critical. Lucas Austin, and he's an offensive lineman. and would we've got good young players, but he would upgrade that. And perhaps the most interesting is Travion Dunbar. He's a running back. And of course, that is surprising because of the running back room we have, even with Johnson leaving. And I still expect Anderson to leave. But we've got good running backs, and we've got Hubbard committed. And originally we had said that would be it. Hubbard was told that he was the only one they were intending to sign. Well, that changed because, West Virginia had been recruiting and watching Dunbar, but his junior year, he had a major injury and missed half the season. And it appears most teams quit looking. West Virginia didn't. Well, here came his senior season. Hubbard had a spectacular year. Dunbar eclipsed it. I think he had almost 50% more yards than Hubbard. I did not write down the numbers. Looked at a little bit of film. But, he is, a special player. I dare say they talked to Hubbard before they made an offer. And hopefully Hubbard is good with that. Of course, by the time they're ready to play, some of the other guys will be moving on. Better than expected. Of course, I know most of the offseason, this past offseason, we were hearing a lot of trash. A lot of people who wanted to be optimistic would say good things and then hear something bad and go back to saying 3 or 4 wins was the ceiling. It was kind of actually, in the offseason, the fans were what the team turned out to be during the season, which was a bit erratic. There were reasons why the team was erratic. Those reasons are being addressed in the recruiting, both the freshman class and the portal. And 7 home games. You kind of say, man, that's just kind of freaky. It hasn't happened for quite a while, and it seems like teams expect it to happen more often. But 7 home games, and we did well at home this year. So, that helps. Hey, I sit here on my butt watching on TV or the computer, so it doesn't really matter to me whether it's home or away. All that changes is possibly the kickoff time. But 7 home games is something special. One more thing that I thought of course, we have been hearing players saying they are coming back, and some of them officially signing deals with the Country Roads Trust. We have almost the entire starting offense committed to coming back. That is big. That is big. Green, White, Gallagher, Ray, Williams, Malone, Cray, Milam, and Rimac, and I think there's probably somebody I'm missing. We haven't heard from Clement yet. I would assume that he is working on a deal with the CRT, hoping that he stays with his feet on the ground and doesn't get somebody in his ear telling him to try to make a big jump now. He deserves NIL money. There's not that much of it to go around. And probably will have to do a discussion of my thoughts on how we can handle the portal and the NIL so that they don't just keep going on as if, the growth could happen forever, which is what's happened with NFL, Major League Baseball, and all of the major revenue sports. You can't keep paying players more and more and more every year. It just gets perpetual motion, doesn't work. And for that matter, neither does unfettered capitalism. Capitalism is a wonderful thing because it motivates. It also corrupts. So we got to find something in the middle, or closer to the middle. And I do have some thoughts on how to do that. They will never happen, but I have some thoughts. I'm an idealist. You may have, noticed that once or twice. Now we don't have a lot of formal commitments from last year's defense as far as coming back yet. What we do have is all three of the key linebackers. Trotter, Lathan, Cutter have all said they're coming back or signed deals with the Country Roads Trust. Of course, we're talking about two guys who are coming back from major injuries. Hopefully, Trotter, I don't know when Trotter is expected to, really be ready. Hopefully maybe in spring. I don't know. And of course, I don't know, now it's hard to get details on injuries these days. Specifics we aren't going to get unless for some reason the player mentions it. But even getting updates as far as a general idea of how rehab is going and whether or not there is a projection for when a player will return to practice and at what speed. And if directly asked, Coach Brown tends to give answers. The media does not tend to ask. I don't know if it's because they choose not to ask, they don't think to ask, or if they have been asked not to ask. It may just be that, Brown would rather keep that, out of public view. And, he has his way of doing things. Generally speaking, I like how he does things. I like why he does what he does. In terms of dealing with the injury questions, I don't know how much is Brown, how much is the media, and don't necessarily know why he's doing things. Of course, the week before a game, he may not want to be too specific on injuries because he doesn't have to be. And if you don't have to, why give the opponent, more information than is necessary? Of course, that's because, all he wants is a level playing field. And I think he decided either before the season or early in the season that if that's the way coaches wanted to play it, then he was going to play it the same way and not just, be the one giving while everybody else was just taking. All right. Well, I do thank everybody for being here. It does look like we are not going to get overwhelming numbers, and it does not appear that we're going to be getting a lot of comments, questions, thoughts, hopes, dreams, complaints, or anything of that sort. And I know Jenny has been working on a meatloaf, which is a very good thing. I've long been fond of meatloaf, and I married somebody who has many good qualities. One of those happens to be her ability to make meatloaf. So I guess I'm going to be signing off. I will ask again, please subscribe if you haven't done so. I think everybody I see in here has subscribed. I do appreciate comments, thumbs up, all of those things help the algorithm. You've heard it over and over again. the more you interact with the video, the more it gets shown on YouTube so that other people find it. So I get more subscribers. So maybe I can eventually try to turn a profit. I have cats and creditors who would very much like me to turn a profit. So, and I will once again mention that there is a link to PayPal on the homepage for the channel. That shows up as Gen 4 Exotiques. If you click it, I am the 4 in Gen 4. So, thanks to everybody for dropping in. Thanks for the comments. I do plan to do a live stream on the 20th, signing day. I will save that for evening, probably be 7:30 Eastern again, unless that's not a good time. You folks also get to help me by telling me what time works best for you. So, hey, if you think I should be earlier or later, let me know. I can adapt. I'm especially adaptable for the people who showed up. You did me a favor. I'll do you a favor. So, and I may do, of course, I plan more videos, hope for more videos as information comes out. Can't rule out a live stream before the 20th, but I definitely plan to do one that evening. Particularly have some thoughts on Wonka, or however the name is pronounced. I'm going to have to get that one straight in the meantime. I think he's going to be a critical part of the defense for reasons beyond just his physical abilities. So if you want to hear more about that, or just like to hear me talk for some reason, people have strange tastes, check in on the 20th. Until then, I'm Forrest Poston. The channel is West Virginia Football Going Deep. I will see you then, and good night.